Well, we're back, and we're actually bringing you the inaugural unboxing video here in Justwingit land, and it's a new Horizon release. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute. This is not a new Horizon release, and you would be exactly right. Those of you who have been watching my channel for more than a couple days have undoubtedly figured out that I really like this particular plane. This is the discontinued Park Zone Sport Cub. Well, I say discontinued because there seems to be a little discussion as to whether or not it's officially discontinued. I think it is. I think her days are numbered, and that's just the way it is, you know. The folks at Horizon Hobby are realigning certain brand names, and they're using the E-flite brand to focus their electric flight efforts. Of course, E-flite always has. That's what E-flite stands for. but they also had, they had E-flite, they had Park Zone, they had all sorts of these names floating around. So it appears that they're trying to really condense all of their efforts into one. So why am I holding a Sport Cub? Again, you all ought to know by now, this is one of my favorite models of all times. Horizon really hit it out of the park with this particular model here. It was released in the spring of 2014, and I was fortunate enough to actually be at SEF, that's the Southeast Electric Flight Festival. In fact, this is a SEF hat that I'm wearing. And I spent a lot of time with Matt Andren and Seth Arnold. And in fact, was able to actually get some of the first footage of Sport Cubs in the wild at SEF. In a fairly well-received video that I shot of Matt and Seth flying their Sport Cubs in fairly windy conditions there in Americus, Georgia. But there's a new plane in town, and a lot of folks have said that perhaps it's the Sport Cub's successor, and it may very well be. I'm going to cover that in a different philosophy video, okay, with regards to, is it the successor to the Sport Cub? But before we get to the new plane, before we get to the unboxing, so what was the Sport Cub? The Sport Cub was basically the natural progression from the Hobby Zone Super Cub, which is a 3-channel trainer that Horizon Hobby had been making for years. It was very successful. A lot of RC modelers cut their teeth on the Super Cub and then went on to bigger and better things from that, because it really was a very mild-mannered, it was a 3-channel rudder elevator throttle configuration, which really lent itself to helping folks understand how to steer a model airplane through the air. And it was also very durable. And what happened is a lot of folks were modding those aircraft by adding ailerons and adding flaps and adding a brushless motor, and on and on and on. And apparently Horizon took notice of that and released the Sport Cub S2, which is a sports scale, semi-scale model, almost really a full scale, but I doubt it. It's more or less sports scale. Let's be honest. Of a Cub Crafters Sport Cub S2. So the Sport Cub S2 actually exists in full scale form, even though I don't believe it's made by Cub Crafters at this point. But in any event, Horizon was licensed by Cub Crafters to model many of its products. It was an officially licensed model. So this is an officially licensed model. The Carbon Z Cub was an officially licensed model. The Sport Cub S, which is a UMX layout. I know, right? Right? Horizon has so many Cubs, it's hard to keep up. But they're breaking away from that. They're breaking away from that. The latest release from Horizon is although it's similar in layout, it's a high-wing tail dragger. That's pretty much where the similarities end. And you're about to see what I'm talking about. And this is what I was talking about. Here she is. This is the brand new, just released E-flite Valiant 1.3 meter. Okay? They're calling it the modern classic that does it all. Okay? I think it is a sexy beast of a high-wing sport aircraft. Okay? First off, what's the Valiant? Well, the original Valiant was, and is, still, sold by Hangar 9. It's a gigantic aircraft. It's designed for a 30cc internal combustion engine, 108-inch wingspan, and depending upon how you outfit the original Valiant, we're talking upwards of 17 pounds all up weight. A massive airplane. So, apparently, Chris Puckett, who designed this thing, needed something to do. And Horizon said, "You're on." No, just kidding, just kidding. But Chris is a great guy. I actually got to meet him at the AMA West convention in Ontario, California here, the first weekend in January after New Year's. So let's talk a little bit about that. This particular plane was an extremely fast flash to bang. Word came out that Horizon was going to be releasing a electric version of the extremely popular Valiant, and Chris Puckett was the designer, and I have a video on my channel where I actually interviewed him at AMA West, and within a week he's unveiling this at the AMA West convention in Ontario, California. Of course, our friend Chuck T and his friends at Model Flight there in the land down under, in the land of Oz, they've already got theirs, and Chuck was able to have a video up very quickly, an unboxing video. And in fact, props to him. I am in my nascent video, my unboxing videos, I'll be following his lead. I really liked his laid-back demeanor, and that's kind of the direction we're going to go, and we're going to see where it takes us. But in any event, so our friends down in Australia were able to have this model. I met up with Chris Puckett in Ontario, California, and was able to see the model in person. And I'm telling you, it was striking. And of course, everything happened so fast, there almost wasn't enough time to really place a pre-order. It was more or less, hey, we're releasing a new model. You know, oh, by the way, a week later it's being unveiled or thereabouts. And then a couple of weeks later, it's on ground here in the United States. So everything was happening very quickly. So in any event, I basically ordered this one the very first day that they came ashore or were available to order. Ordered it, and here we are. Okay, so Valiant 1.3 meter. It's a striking high wing sport plane. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what's inside this box. And here she is. The protective box is off, and what a looker! What a looker! As is typical of Horizon products and of E-flite products, she's very well packaged. I mean, it seems like as much thought goes into the packaging of these as the overall flight characteristics. Really, I'm serious. Very well packaged, very thoughtfully engineered in that regard anyways. And as usual, the instruction booklet is always in the back. It's always in the back of the styrofoam carton. Okay, So let's go ahead and get this bad boy out of the box, and we'll see what she looks like with all the individual pieces. And we'll go over all the individual pieces in turn. And here she is, all out of the box in her glory. In any event, a very low parts count, very low. You have the main fuselage, you have a wing spar, you have actually 2 wing spars, you have the 2 wing halves. Much like the Sport Cub, you have the plastic fairing that goes over where the wings go together. The empennage, by the way, okay, this whole tail feathers thing drives me nuts. I'm just keeping it real, okay? No, but seriously, this whole thing, it's empennage. It's horizontal stabilizer and elevator, vertical stabilizer and rudder, empennage. Tail feathers, I know everybody uses it. Everybody. And it kills me. It's like, oh, tail feathers. Anyways, you have the empennage. You have a very, very, very stout and sturdy landing gear. It's aluminum. It's very nicely machined aluminum landing gear. Look at this. Look how thick that is. It's held in by 4 screws. Nice foam wheels. The fairings. The fairings are actually even. They're not off centered, and that's because there's this little. There's a plastic guide that keeps those fairings nice. Okay. Also, these are the things I like so far. If you look, there's a pocket where this will actually go into when you put the pieces together, which means it's nice and flush. It sits flush. Very cool design. Very cool design. And of course this will key in to the fuselage, and so when you bolt it down using the 2 supplied screws, it's for a very positive fit. I like it. I mean, I think a lot of engineering went into this. I noticed this down in Ontario. Y'all are going to laugh, and that's fine, okay? But I thought the simple fact that they used black, or at least painted it black, the control horns or the mounting horns, and then white, I think that's a nice touch. I mean, really, look, that shows that there's an attention to detail and a level of fit and finish that is outstanding. Okay, really, really impressed with that. It's a very nice wing. I would say it's a semi-symmetrical wing, which lends itself to aerobatics. I imagine she's going to be able to perform in the inverted as easily as she performs upright. In fact, the more I look at that wing, it appears to be almost perfectly symmetrical, but we'll have to see about that. The only thing I really am not too thrilled with is the fact that the hinge line for the flaps and for the ailerons appears to be a little thin, but that's been reinforced with some hinge tape anyway, so I don't see that as being too much of an issue. But that's just the nature of the beast when you're talking about foam hinges. And this aircraft isn't really intended for hardcore 3D aerobatics, so a foam hinge is perfectly fine for this application, this sport application. It's a sport plane. It is a true sport plane. It's a high wing sport plane. Another thing, one thing that I noticed in Ontario is that and indeed was confirmed by Chris, was that Horizon utilized one of their original vendors when they made this model. In other words, it's fairly well known at this point that Horizon has utilized FMS to make several of their latest releases within the E-flite line. Notably the P-51 Mustang, the new and improved T-28s with retracts, the P-47 that Chris Puckett designed. Those were all FMS made. Those are made by FMS for Horizon. But in this particular plane, Horizon utilized one of their original vendors. So, which by the way is close hold. I mean, nobody, to this day, nobody knows who it is. Is it Freewing? Is it FMS? Is it, who knows, you know? Who cares, quite frankly? I love the old Park Zone planes and the Park Zone Sport Cub, Radians, you name it. If you're familiar with those aircraft, you are going to be instantly familiar with this, and this, the minute it comes out of the box, is going to feel like an old friend. It's like that comfortable pair of jeans. You know, it just feels good. You know, it just feels right. The fuselage. The fuselage is super. It really, really is. The landing gear appears to be a bit back, or at least positioned a little bit further back than it would be on a Cub, perhaps. The cowl, oh, by the way, let's start at the front. The prop is the same prop found in the Artisan. Okay, so it's a 10.5 or 10.5 by 8 pitch prop. Big prop, right? And it's the metal canned 480 sized 960 kV motor that all of y'all that are familiar with the Park Zone aircraft are going to know right away. Okay, it's a bread and butter motor. It's a reliable motor, and it's powering this prop. The cowl is very thick. In fact, I think it's a little even thicker than the Sport Cubs. Okay, so we remember, as you'll recall, the Wildcat, the T-28, the original T-28, had those paper thin cowls, right? You look at them cross-eyed and they break. Sport Cub had a little bit better cowl, right? Well, this is a better cowl still. This is really nice, okay, very thick. Brass fittings inside. I don't know if you can see that. There's some brass fittings on the inside where the screws are. Okay, there's an AR-636A receiver, which is safe select. There's an AR-636. There's a 30 amp ESC. Oh, by the way, the servos, I'll show you here real quick. I don't know if you can see those. Those are the SV80s. So this is, we're really taking it back. We're taking it back to some of Horizon's and Park Zone's roots. We really are. SV80 servos. It has the V2, so the version 2 of the 30 amp ESC that we've seen for years. Let me show you something here too. So has the fittings for the Hobby Zone floats that you can employ on multiple aircraft. The Hobby Zone Super Cub, the Sport Cub, the Hobby Zone Mini Apprentice S, for example, takes those. Now look at this. So for those of you who are curious, that this comes off. It's not hinged. It just simply comes off. And if we look inside, we will see a cavernous battery compartment. EC3 connector. Has an EC3 connector. 2 battery straps. And the bind plug extends out. The bind plug extends out so you can bind her up. The landing gear will go in here. There's 4 bolts are going to hold it. I will probably employ some additional Velcro because that's just how I roll. And we're going to get this thing built, bound, and ready to go. But thus far, I really like what I'm seeing, and I I'm already comfortable with the model. I can tell that it's going to be, without even looking, there's four screws are going to hold my very robust, I mean robust, robust landing gear. Look how thick that is. Look at that thickness. That's amazing. So, so you're really going to have to work hard on your landings to muck that up, okay? There's 4 bolts that are going to hold that landing gear on. 4 or screws rather are going to hold the wing on. And oh, by the way, they go into brass fittings. There's brass fittings in the fuse. 2 are going to hold this on, the empennage on. Plus, it appears it even has the Sport Cup tail wheel. Very sturdy. I like it. There's a carbon spar, it appears, in the empennage. And the paint job is very good. There's very little, if any, bleed over on the stripes. The blue is wonderful, and in fact, the entire paint scheme or color scheme is paint. It is not decals. So you have blue paint and silver paint or trim, and then the decals would be the Valiant, it says Valiant and E-flite. But everything else is painted. The stripes are paint. The blue is paint. The silver trim is paint. The silver trim is paint. However, the windows are decals. But in any event, okay. So there you have it. The Valiant out of the box, and I'll tell you, I'm really liking what I see thus far. I really like the clevises. And oh, by the way, just so you understand where they are on the factory settings, the clevises on the ailerons are on the innermost hole. So apparently they are fully expecting you to explore a fairly hardy flight envelope, and indeed the flaps are at the second hole in. So there you go. So we're going to go ahead and get this assembled off camera. We're going to get bound up, and then we're going to go ahead and show you what she looks like, spool up the motor for you, and get her ready for a maiden flight. Be right back. Alright, well here she is all assembled. As with most E-flite, if we think back to days gone by, the Park Zone and so forth and so on, pretty much a non-event. From start to finish, the actual assembly proper took about 15 minutes. Did I consult the owner's manual, which is sitting right here? No. But having watched Chuck T's video and some other videos, and plus just knowing the general layout and the methodology behind E-flite and Park Zone models, I knew, okay, I'm going to put the landing gear on first, I'm going to put the empennage on, and I'm going to get her on her feet, put the wings on, and then that's really it. It comes with the prop already on. The prop's already on, the spinner, it's a very high level of completion out of the box. And since there are no retracts to monkey with or anything like that, I mean, it all goes together very nice. As others have already said, the only thing wrong was the fact that, again, the flaps and the aileron servo leads are not marked. So it's kind of like, you know, a game, you know? It's a game. Hey, let's figure out which ones are which. So now there are Y leads already on the receiver. So all you have to do is plug in the leads from the servos into the Y leads, and hopefully you'll be good to go. Well, as it turns out, I just sort of, you know, plugged in leads, and I had one of the ailerons working good. One of the flaps was kind of like you know, pretending to work, I guess. I forgot. Anyways, one of the ailerons is working. It's like, okay, that narrows it down. So I unplugged one of the leads from the aileron leads, which I believe is slot 3, and then on the AR-636 receiver. Unplugged one of the leads from the flap leads, which I believe was 5 or 6. Anyways, plugged it in, and sure enough, it worked. Woohoo! Quick, you know. Then plugged in, then plugged in the other plug, and I had flaps and ailerons. But yeah, that was a little. You know, I'm not going to say upsetting, because, you know, okay, what's an extra 5 minutes or whatever? In fact, it actually took longer to set the model up in my DX6. It took it longer to set it up, you know, name it, you know, all of that, set up the flaps and everything, than it did really to assemble the plane. The plane was 15 minutes, start to finish. But to figure out the leads, cast another 5, and then to set up the box. Okay, all said and done, you could be ready to go, flight ready in 30 minutes. Okay, I'm going to show you where I have my battery. Oh, and by the way, when you power the aircraft up as per the manual, I've got mine powered up right now with the safe select off, which basically you bind it the way you would any other E-flite plane in years gone by. Bind plug in, battery in, beep, beep, beep. You hold the blind plug on the transmitter, you turn the transmitter on, it recognizes and it binds. Okay, so that's why I did this. I do not have safe enabled in this plane. I'll be flying this plane without the safe enabled. The maiden will occur without the safe enabled. I'll probably never even fly it with the safe enabled. But in any event, one thing I did notice though, was the throws on this thing are massive. I mean, the ailerons, everything is cranking on this plane. So that's going to be fun. I set my flaps up on switch D, which is what the actual owner's manual recommends. 2 position. I put 2-second deployment delay setting in, which the owner's manual actually recommends. I'm like, okay, cool. And I actually put Expo in. I know you're not supposed to, or they say your air fingers, you're not supposed to on an AS3X. I always do anyways. I've never really saw anything adverse. So I got 30% Expo on all control surfaces, and we'll see how she flies. She's ready to go. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. When you power up the aircraft and when you bind the aircraft, do not have your control horns hooked up to the clevises. Leave your clevises off. Let everything be centered. Well, at least with the rudder and the elevator. Okay, at least with the rudder and the elevator. Because mine were off a little bit. I had to mechanically center everything. The wings and the flaps, the ailerons and the flaps were relatively good out of the box. The flaps were perfect. Didn't need to adjust those. And the only thing I needed to adjust was the left aileron, like 1 spin to bring the aileron. The aileron was slightly down, so I had to do 1 turn, and it brought it right back to where it should be. So it's mechanically centered. Okay. So I have an old Hobby People battery. I'll show you where it's at. It's an old Hobby People 3S 2200 20C. Now, am I going to be flying it on this battery? Probably. Why not? I fly a lot of stuff on it. I actually have 3 of these things. And let me show you where I've got my CG. So, and by the way, the plane is not powered up. The plane is not powered up. I'll do that at the field, okay? So I go with the thickest part of the airfoil right on the main spar, which is generally where CG is going to happen. And as you can see, she is almost perfectly CG'd with that battery at that position. It's about 1 inch or so, maybe a finger's width back from the front. Okay? And because she has AS3X, and because she is a high-wing aircraft, even though she is very performance-oriented and maneuverable, Um, I'm not going to have any problem in flying her with that. I also have some very nice 2200s, 60C 2200s, 3S 2200s. I'm going to fly her around just to see if there's any difference. But she would have mated on my 4-year-old Hobby People 20C 3S 2200s. I'm sure she's going to do just fine. Well, maybe, I don't know. It's an awfully big prop, but I've got some China Hobby line, some CHL 65C 3S 2200s. I got a few of those. I'll run them through her tomorrow as well, weather permitting. Weather permitting, the maiden will occur tomorrow. Not that matters to y'all watching on YouTube, because who knows when the video will get posted. It might be a day or two later. But overall impressions, a very nice plane. The paint job is superlative. Absolutely fantastic paint job. Minimal overspray, if there's really any at all, and very little bleed over. What I like is that one of the things they addressed apparently was with the Sport Cub. A lot of folks had some heartburn with where the vertical stab went in. It didn't really match up quite right with the fuse. Well, they've eliminated that. With this keying in, as you can see, there's practically, well, there isn't. There's no difference. It keys right in. It's perfect. Same thing with this guy right here. This that plastic piece sunk right in to the molded foam pocket, and it's just awesome. So in any event, hey, looking forward to getting this plane in the air. Hopefully it'll happen tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see if the weather holds, which today was beautiful flying weather. So in any event, hey, thanks for watching this somewhat lengthy what's in the box / unboxing / hey, here she's assembled video. I hope you enjoy this slightly different format. Many more to come. Yeah, I'm kind of digging it. I hope you are too. In any event, looking forward to maidening this thing. That's going to be on the hat cam, which you're all familiar with, and we'll see how this thing flies. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Happy landings all. Cheers.